So James, if I go online right now, I can find this nickel wire for a couple dollars or a couple $100 a meter. What's going on with that?
Like we've talked about with validation, with your downstream use, uh, when you go on Alibaba or Made in China, sites like that, they sell a form of NP1 nickel wire, but the difference is they're not, like for me, I offer a free sample. I'll send you 10 meters of it. Test it yourself. Don't count on my validation or my lab reports. Get your own. That is not offered, in those sales prices. You get what you pay for. You can't, a lab in, anywhere in the Western hemisphere, a lab has to have it documented. It has to be verified. They have to test it. It has to be the exact same consistency. It has to be the same thickness, the same diameter throughout. It can't break, so it can't have any weaknesses. It has to be, tension. The tension has to be perfect. So you can buy that, and it's generally for a hobbyist, that might want a good lead when he's putting together, building his own robot in the garage. I don't know. I don't know what they use it for. But the real manufacturers, especially if they're selling to the U.S. market, the EU, Australia, any of these markets that recognize sanctions, and recognize labor laws and are transparent, they have to go with the higher dollar stuff. And it's, you'll see companies, their catalog, they're mega, they're Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies with billions in assets, but they also carry 10,000 products, and so they have overhead, they have offices, they have global offices, they have executives, they've got a lot of overhead. And so those are the companies you'll see, Thermo Fisher, Fisher Scientific, Goodfellow, selling it for $150, $180 a meter, so that's the difference.
And where do you fit in between these two extremes?
I don't have the overhead. How I obtained this was not your traditional, purchase. It's, one of the things I wanted to tell you about earlier was how I obtained it. If you think about, most people can relate to, maybe they've seen Storage Wars, or they've seen, these different shows, or they know somebody that's done it. But a storage unit, most people have had one. If you don't pay your bill, they throw a lock on it. If you don't pay your bill after they throw a lock on it, now they auction it. And that was basically where the guys were at when I came in and lent them the money to get it current. The thing that it's like your own storage unit, you might have $50,000 worth of your furniture and possessions and all that stuff in there, and it might only cost you $2,000 to pay it current. But if you don't have it, you don't have it.
Right.
So I didn't pay $50,000 for what was in it. I paid the $2,000 to get it to where it needed to be. So that took off a lot of my overhead. I don't have the same costs. I don't have the same layers of the marketing that they do, of the executives, of the locations, the offices, the warehouses, carrying costs. So basically just dissolve the layers. That's where I come in, and I, depending on how much somebody's going to buy, I'm closer to the $20 to $50 range of selling it per meter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you buy enough, I'll make you a deal. So.